Good morning, children. Hope you are all fine. In this class, two more short answers questions I will complete. One is infinite loop and one more is empty loop. Before going to infinite loop, first I will complete what is a finite loop. Give an example for finite loop means, see, note down. For I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. Now see. In the above code, the loop is repeated 10 times. You know that the loop is repeated 10 times. So finite number of iterations it will takes place. So it is an example for finite loop. So the above code is an example for finite loop. What is a finite loop means? The loop is repeated finite number of iterations is called as a finite loop. You note down. A loop is repeated finite number of iterations is called as finite loop. So we already know what is a finite loop. So once again I am repeating. Now what is an infinite loop? What is an infinite loop? See. What is an infinite loop? Write short notes on infinite loop, or we have to give an example for finite loop, or they will ask give an example for infinite loop, or what is the output of the above code, like that they will ask. So infinite loop means a loop is repeated infinite number of iterations is called infinite loop. A loop is repeated infinite number of iterations is called infinite loop. Now example see. Open your BlueJ. Take the new class as infinite example. Class name, main method, one variable declare, for loop, statement, close for loop, close main, close class, compare. So this is an example for finite loop. So output is 1 to 10, you will get the output. See, check the output once. 1 to 10. So this is an example for finite loop. Now I want infinite loop. The loop is repeated n number of times. So I greater than 0, for example. So what is the output of the above code means? The loop is repeated n number of times. 1 to infinity is your output. Now check the output. 1 greater than 0, condition true. It will enter into the block. Next case 2 greater than 0, like that. 3 greater than 0. Now check the output. 1 to infinity. It is not possible to stop. See. If you want to stop execution, minimize, right side corner, reset Java virtual machine. Right click on that one, Java virtual machine. Reset Java virtual machine, you have to click. Then open terminal window, Control K, shortcut key to clear the contents. Now close. This is an example for infinite loop. This is a for loop. or you have to use while loop also. While boolean value true, increment I plus plus, compare. So this is an example for infinite loop, either for loop or while loop. Now check the output. This case also 1 to infinity output. N number of iterations it will take place. See, so it is not possible to stop. So minimize, right click, reset Java virtual machine click. Then you have to clear the contents of the screen. Control K. So this is an example for infinite loop. Now the next short answer question is, what is an empty loop? Say, what is an empty loop? It is also called null loop. Empty loop is also called null loop. Write short notes on empty loop. A loop which does not contain any body, which does not have any body. That means missing statements inside body is called as a empty loop or null loop. Give an example for empty loop or null loop means. Open your BlueJ. See here. There are no statements are there. No statements. Compare. No syntax errors. This is an example for empty loop or null loop. Either while loop or for loop also. See, not done. For loop, see. So this is an example for empty loop or null loop. If the loop is repeated 10 times, no output. Now execute. Execute. No output. So this is an example for empty loop or null loop. No statements are there. Or you have to use remove the braces, curly braces at the end. You have to keep semicolon. This is also an example for empty loop or null loop. Compile. No syntax errors. Empty loop is also called as delay loop in Java. Delay loop means after repeating, if you want to delay the execution, then in such cases we are using empty loop. See here. Delay loop. After the loop is repeated 10 times, the cursor will come to here, then it will print this one, delay loop. Output is a delay loop. Now execute. It will print delay loop after repeating the loop 10 times. Sometimes if you want to delay the execution, in such cases we are using empty loop or null loop. This is also called as null loop in Java programming. So these are the two short answers questions. One is infinite loop. Write short notes on infinite loop and give an example. Or they will give the code, what is the output of the above code. Like that they'll ask. Or write short notes on empty loop or null loop or delay loop in Java programming. You have to write the example also. Thank you. In the next class, I will continue with the remaining.